1992 Acura Legend. The official car of your dad's business partner who showed up to the company picnic in Kers and a golf shirt with the logo of a country club he can't actually afford to join. The official car of it's pronounced Acura, not Acura. The official car of believing that German engineering is overrated while secretly wishing you could afford a BMW. This is what aspiration looked like in 1992. Not the cocaine-fueled, shoulder-padded, Gordon Gekko aspiration of the 80s. That was over. This is the downsized aspiration of the early 90s, when the recession hit and suddenly everyone realized that maybe, just maybe, conspicuous consumption was tacky. The Legend was for people who wanted to feel wealthy without looking like they were trying too hard. It was the automotive equivalent of saying summer home instead of lake house. Let's talk about what the Legend actually is. It's a Honda with delusions of grandeur, and somehow, that actually worked. Acura was Honda's answer to a question nobody asked: what if we made Hondas more expensive? But unlike every other badge engineering disaster, I'm looking at you, Cadillac Cimarron, the Legend actually delivered. The 1992 Legend came with a 3.2-liter V6 making 200 horsepower, which in 1992 was respectable. Not exciting, not thrilling, but respectable. It's the horsepower equivalent of getting a firm handshake from your girlfriend's dad. You passed the test. You're acceptable. You may proceed. The engine is a longitudinal mounted V6 mated to either a 4-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual. Because yes, you could get a Legend with 3 pedals, which immediately makes it cooler than 90% of luxury cars today. The manual transmission Legend is the unicorn of early 90s Japanese luxury, owned exclusively by dentists who still thought they were cool because they once saw a Sonic Youth concert. Step inside and you're greeted by an interior that screams 1992 so loudly it might as well come with a free copy of Baby Got Back on cassette. Everything is beige. Everything. Beige leather. Beige carpet. Beige dashboard. Even the buttons are beige adjacent. The only thing that breaks up the monotony is the wood trim, which is also basically fancy beige. But here's the thing, it's nice beige. This isn't the cheap, scratchy, plastic beige of a rental car. This is soft, supple, I'm doing okay beige. The leather actually smells like leather, not like the chemical plant explosion that modern car interiors smell like. The wood trim is real wood, not the photocopied wood-look plastic that modern cars use. The seats are comfortable in that specific early 90s way where they're supportive but not aggressive. They don't hug you like modern sports seats. They don't cradle you like modern luxury seats. They just hold you, like a respectful distant relative at a funeral. I acknowledge your presence and will provide adequate support. The gauge cluster is analog because this was before every car decided it needed to look like a gaming PC. There's a real speedometer, real tachometer, real buttons that click when you press them. The climate control has dials, not a touchscreen that requires 3 menu dives to adjust the temperature. Get behind the wheel and fire it up. That V6 starts with a smooth, cultured purr that says, I have read at least 3 books this year. The transmission slides into gear with the kind of mechanical precision that Honda perfected and everyone else gave up trying to match. Out on the road, the Legend drives like a really nice car. That's it. There's no drama here. The steering is precise but not communicative. The ride is smooth but not floaty. The handling is competent but not exciting. It's the automotive equivalent of a dinner party where everyone is pleasant and the conversation stays safely in the territory of weather and home renovations. The Legend isn't trying to be a sports car. It's not trying to be a magic carpet. It's trying to be a nice car for people who have arrived. Sort of. You're not rich. You're not buying a Mercedes S-Class. But you're doing better than your brother-in-law who's still driving that rusted-out Taurus, and you want everyone at Thanksgiving to know it without actually saying it. The V6 has that Honda smoothness that makes you understand why people say it's a Honda like it's an explanation for everything. Is it fast? No. Does it matter? Also no. Because the Legend isn't about going fast. It's about going to the office, to the golf course, to the steakhouse where you know the owner, all while maintaining an aura of quiet competence. Here's what you need to understand about the Legend. In 1992, this was it. This was the pinnacle of what Japan could offer to challenge European luxury. And you know what? It worked. The Legend outsold the BMW 5 Series in the early 90s. Let that sink in. A Honda with a fancy badge outsold BMW. Why? Because it was reliable. Because it was well built. Because Honda understood something that the European manufacturers didn't. Americans wanted luxury, But they also wanted to know that their car would start every morning without requiring a personal relationship with a mechanic named Hans who charges $200 just to look at your car. The Legend was for people who were smart enough to know that a $50,000 BMW would cost you $5,000 a year in maintenance, but successful enough that they didn't want to show up to the partners' meeting in a Camry. It was the rational choice for the aspirational class. The Legend owner in 1992 was a specific type of person. They had a college degree, probably in business or engineering. They worked in middle management at a corporation you've heard of but can't quite remember what they do. They had a 401k. They understood compound interest. They bought their house in 1987 and felt very smart about it. They wore Dockers to casual events and thought it was dressing down. They owned a camcorder and filmed their kids' soccer games. They had opinions about lawn care. They knew the difference between balsamic vinegar and red wine vinegar and would tell you about it unprompted. The Legend owner wasn't flashy. They weren't trying to impress anyone. They had already impressed the people who mattered: their parents, their in-laws, their boss. The Legend was the reward for doing everything right. For following the rules. For taking the safe job instead of the risky startup. For buying index funds instead of individual stocks. By 1995, the Legend was dead, replaced by the Acura RL, which somehow managed to be both more expensive and less impressive. The Legend name would return decades later on the MDX and RDX as trim levels, which is like naming your kids after your dead uncle. Technically respectful but also kind of weird. What killed the Legend? The same thing that kills every Japanese luxury car eventually. The Europeans figured out reliability, and the Americans figured out that they actually could build decent cars if they tried. The Legend existed in a sweet spot where Honda was better than everyone at everything except prestige, and for a brief moment, that was enough. But also, the world moved on. By the late 90s, SUVs were the new status symbol. By the 2000s, everyone wanted German cars again. By the 2010s, everyone wanted Teslas. The idea of a sensible, reliable, Japanese luxury sedan became boring, obvious. The choice of someone who wasn't making choices, just following the script. Find a 1992 Legend today and you'll pay, not much. Maybe $3,000 for a decent one. Maybe $7,000 for a pristine one with low miles. Because nobody collects these. Nobody swaps engines into these. Nobody builds show cars out of these. The Legend is invisible. It's the car equivalent of business casual. Appropriate for all occasions, memorable for none. But here's the secret: they're still good cars. A well-maintained Legend will start every time, run smooth, and get you where you need to go with zero drama. The V6 is bulletproof. The transmission is Honda solid. The interior wears like leather furniture in a house where people actually use coasters. The Legend is the car you buy when you want something nicer than a Civic but don't want to deal with the German car ownership experience. It's the car you give to your college kid because you know it won't break down. It's the car you keep as a third car because it's too good to get rid of but not special enough to really care about. The 1992 Acura Legend is the official car of competent adequacy. It's the car of doing everything right and being rewarded with a nice car that nobody really notices. It's the automotive embodiment of middle management. Successful, comfortable, reliable, and utterly, completely, satisfyingly, fine. And you know what? In 2025, when every car is either a soulless appliance or an overwrought statement piece, maybe fine is exactly what we need. Maybe the Legend was ahead of its time by being perfectly, contentedly, acceptably adequate. The 1992 Acura Legend. Because you're not poor, you're not rich, you're just doing okay. And that's okay.